And what is going on, everybody? Hope everybody is enjoying their day so far. And we are back with another video, this time looking at our latest bracketology from ESPN's Joe Lenardi. I know that we did this last year. We're going to be bringing it back this year for the 2026 NCAA Tournament. We're going to be doing a weekly live show all the way up until the unveiling of the March Madness bracket. We will also give you a live reaction to that as well as we did last year. So we will have plenty of college basketball content as really the college basketball season gets heated up. We just flipped from January to February, and then we will have pretty much February is the last month of the regular season action in college basketball. And then early March, we'll get into the conference tournaments. So we'll have every conference tournament prediction, mainly for the Power Four. I'll also bring you the Big East predictions as well. So that's pretty much how our content is going to be rolling in. Now that football is pretty much over with, we have the Super Bowl, the NFL for this weekend. After that, we will be into our baseball and basketball content here for the near future. But today, we're going to be looking at the latest bracketology from ESPN's Joe Lenardi that was released earlier this morning. We do have some games tonight. We had our headliner last night between Kansas and Texas Tech, with the Jayhawks pulling off the road win in Lubbock. And we have I was looking at our early weekend slate Saturday games. We are definitely in a treat if you are a college basketball fan. So we're going to look at the latest bracketology, then give you our official predictions just to see how I would fill out my bracket as we're here on this February 3rd. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, we do have a long way to go before we can fill out our final bracket, but just some early thoughts on all this college basketball tournament that'll be getting underway here in just a little bit over a month now. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the latest bracketology. Just looking at it, this might actually my only few times looking at the bracketology, definitely change overall. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Starting off with the bracket watch. So Arizona has been the top overall seed. I've been looking at this for the past couple of weeks. Arizona has been locked in as the number one overall seed, as they should. They've really been dominant. If they run the table in the Big 12, say if they only lose 2 or 3 games in Big 12 play, or even win the Big 12 tournament, this will be the team to beat for that top overall seed. Other teams in play for this could be Michigan, could be Duke, maybe even UConn out of the Big East. But for now, on February 3rd, the Arizona Wildcats are the top overall seed. Texas, that is one of your SEC representatives. Texas is the last team in at the moment. And then Virginia Tech out of the ACC is the first team out. We'll dive more into the bubble. I do want to get into the majority of the bracket, but I do want to focus on the bubble just to see where all these teams stand as we head into the first week of February. But just reading this over, the latest candidate for hottest team in America takes us to Illinois. The Fighting Illini are making headlines with an 11-game winning streak, which includes back-to-back road wins of the Quad 1A variety at Purdue in Nebraska. So yeah, like Lenardi said in his article, getting a win, especially at Purdue, and then Nebraska. Nebraska has definitely been a wagon in Big Ten play. I mean, the Big Ten overall, you got Purdue, Nebraska, Illinois, and you got Michigan State really leading the pack for that conference. And yeah, Nebraska has been unbeatable, and Illinois was able to get those 2 wins back to back. These victories in the top half of Quad 1 move the needle more than any other terms of NCAA tournament seeding. As a result, the Illini reside as the top 2 seed in our latest bracket, number 5 overall. That's the good news. The bad, if we can call it that, is a sizable gap between the number 1 and number 2 seeds on our board. One could drive a truck through the space between Illinois and UConn, currently the last 1 seed. We'll also see our shadow, however, meaning the 6 more weeks of bracketology could still bring plenty of surprises. So a little bit of a pun there from Punxsutawney Phil, seeing his shadow of 6 more weeks of winter there. But let's go ahead and dive into the bracket itself. We will go through all the regions just to see which teams are moving up. We'll also notify the teams who are the number 1 seeds, just to get a little bit of sense where we stand at the moment. So looking at the West region, like I mentioned at the top, Arizona is the top overall number 1 seed, so they would be in the West region, so they would have games all the way up to the Sweet 16 in San Diego. Looks like SMU, they fell down 2 seeds, so they were a number 7 seed firmly in this last bracketology update. But Lenardi looks like he moved them down to number 9 and SMU. We will get into more of these matchups when we get to our predictions. Let's move on to the West. UNC Wilmington, that's definitely going to be one of those mid-major teams to really look at of a potential first-round upset. UNC Wilmington's got a lot of upside, and they got a really high-powered offense that can shoot the basketball. I think that UNC Wilmington, out of all these 13 seeds, definitely have the highest upside out of all these 13 seeds that we will be discussing today. But UNC Wilmington moved off of the 14 seed. Now they are firmly a number 13 seed. Looks like their first round matchup in this bracketology would be against the Vanderbilt Commodores. Moving on down the line there, Michigan State did fall from the number 2 to number 3 seed with their recent loss to Michigan. That wasn't a bad loss at all. Like I mentioned, Michigan has been one of the best teams in Big Ten. Michigan State's going to be all right. If they get the 3 seed, they're going to be okay with that. Number 14 seed is Wright State. So Wright State moves up. Wright State feels like they are pretty much in the tournament every single year at this point. But Wright State could be one of those teams that can make some noise as well. Moving on down, we do have a lot of movement in the West region. Indiana moves up a couple of spots to the 10 seed. Indiana, a huge overtime win on the road at UCLA. Indiana starting to play some really good basketball. They just beat Purdue this past week as well, like I mentioned, against UCLA on the road. So Indiana, the Hoosiers, are starting to figure it out. Gonzaga moves up to the number 2 seed, and then UT Martin moves up to the 1 seed. So we will keep it on the top half portion of the bracket. We will continue on with Midwest region. NC Central now up to a 16 seed. So in this scenario, they would face off against the number 16 seed in Vermont. So that would be one of your playing games between the 2 16 seeds. UCF with their big upset against Texas Tech over the weekend. Texas Tech now losers of 2 straight. I mean, UCF and Kansas, those are not that bad of losses. But UCF, I think that they are one of the more dark horse teams in the Big 12. Everybody wants to talk about Arizona, Kansas, BYU, Texas Tech at the top. But UCF, they got quite of a resume. That would be a dangerous number 8 seed to have in your side of the bracket. But we see the Knights at number 8. So they moved up from the number 9 seed to number 8. I mean, if you're number 9, number 8 doesn't really matter. You're going to have to face off against, the 9-8 and then the 1 versus 16 either way. But we will see if the Knights continue to move up. We will continue on. Troy moves down from a 13 to a 14. Looks like Troy is slated to be the Sun Belt champs at the moment. Kentucky moves up a spot from the 8 seed off now to the 7 seed with their recent victory against Arkansas on the road. Kentucky will be back in conference play this week. And then moving on down to the South. So that was all of really the movement and the seedings wise in that region. Now let's go on down to the South region, as we have the number 1 seed is UConn in this one. Like Lenardi mentioned, UConn is the last one. So the top 2 seeds at the moment would be Michigan and Arizona, with Duke trailing the way. Harvard, who is a team that it feels like has always punched their ticket, the Ivy League. You see Princeton, Harvard, you've seen Yale in the past. Harvard at the moment is slated to be the representatives of the Ivy League. They are one of the newer teams here in this field of 68. So Harvard would face off against a 16 seed Bethune-Cookman. So like I mentioned, that would be one of your 2 16 seed play-in games that would be played in Dayton, Ohio. You would have other 11 seed versus 11 seed matchups as well. We'll get into that in just a couple of moments. Wisconsin moves up. Wisconsin, one of the hottest teams in the Big Ten. I definitely think that they could definitely make some noise if they can get a good enough draw here. They would face off against NC State. NC State, also a really good team out of the ACC. They've been rolling once conference play really got going. Stephen F. Austin, they have definitely looked like one of the best teams in the Southland so far. Looks like they would get a date with Alabama in the first round against Portland. So Stephen F. Austin, excuse me, goes up from the 13 to the 12 in this latest bracketology. Moving on down the line in the South, we actually have a lot of movement here in a negative way. Arkansas moves from the 7 to the 6 after their recent loss at home in Bud and Walton Arena to Kentucky. Miami moves down to the 10 to the 11, and Nebraska moves down to the 3 with their recent loss to Illinois. Texas A&M, a quiet team. Like Texas A&M's not getting the respect in the polls. I know that they were barely squeaked into the coaches poll, but Texas A&M needs to be a top 20 team easily. Buckyball is performing well in the first season in College Station. Texas A&M, they got definitely some tough games coming up, but this Texas A&M team is definitely impressing me so far this season. St. Mary's moves down to the 10 seed, and Houston moves up to the 1 seed. Houston is in a loaded Big 12 with Arizona and Kansas. We will see if Houston can take over Arizona's crown, but the way that Arizona's been rolling, we're going to be curious to see how that shakes out between the Cougs and the Wildcats. So that is the South region. Now let's go on to the East region. That would be Washington, D.C. You would have now the 8 seed Villanova. They moved down a spot. Villanova, probably one of the best teams in the Big East, has been kind of down this year. I know that St. John's, we'll get to them. They're a projected 5 seed at the moment. UConn, there's not too many Big East teams in this projected field, but Villanova safely in the field for now at the 8 seed. Tennessee moves up with the big win over the weekend against Auburn. That was definitely a huge quad 1 victory for the Vols in Tennessee, really forming a shape, especially whenever they got into conference play. So Tennessee now up to a 5 seed. They would face off against Liberty in this projection. Utah Valley is also a new team along with Harvard in this bottom portion of the bracket. Utah Valley would be the 13 seed facing off against Texas Tech. Now you get into your play-in game, which is USC and San Diego State. San Diego State moves off of the 10 seed now down to the 11 seed, so they would have to face off against USC. Like I mentioned, that game would be in Dayton, Ohio. New Mexico moves up to the 10 seed, and East Tennessee State moves down from the 14 to the 15 seed. That would be your representative, I believe, out of the SoCon Conference, the East Tennessee State. That would be a dangerous matchup going up against one of the hottest teams in the country in Illinois. But we will see how all this shakes out. I'm sure that this is going to change every time that we look at this every single week. But that is your latest bracketology on February 3rd. Now let's go on now to the bubble. First up is your last 4 byes. It would be Indiana, UCLA, New Mexico, and Miami. So if you're not familiar with this, if you have one of those last 4 byes, you get to not play in the first 4 game, which is huge. But we have seen in the past those, whether it's 11 seed or 10 seed facing off, we have seen teams go on the run even to the Final Four in some cases. But so far, Indiana, UCLA, New Mexico, and Miami. So you do have 2 Big Ten teams in this pool. New Mexico out of the Mountain West and Miami out of the ACC. Your last 4 in, this would be the last teams to make the field overall. You have USC, Ohio State, so that's 2 Big Ten teams off the bat right there. San Diego State and Texas, and like you see from this, there's going to be a lot of Big Ten representation. I mean, we've already have a lot of teams pretty much safely in the field, and then you have Indiana, UCLA, USC, and Ohio State. Then you have San Diego State and Texas rounding out the last 4 in. So all 4 of those teams would be in the play-in game at the moment. Your first 4 out, this would be teams ranked 69 to 72 that missed the cut. So Virginia Tech, California. Then so you have 2 ACC teams. Seton Hall, which started off the season very hot, they kind of skidded the past couple of weeks. So we see the Seton Hall Pirates, one of these first 4 teams out, and Santa Clara rounding out the first 4 out. So these 4 teams definitely need to get some work to get into the right side of the bubble, but there's still plenty of time to do that. And then the next 4 out, you have Missouri, TCU, George Mason, VCU. So George Mason, VCU, 2 teams from the A10, TCU out of the Big 12, Missouri from the SEC, Missouri. Suffered a really good win over the weekend over Mississippi State. Mississippi State pretty much out of the field at this point, but that was a good win overall, not to hurt Missouri's chances to be in this field. But these next 4 out teams got some work to do in the month of February if they do want to get into, like the last 4 buys or the last 4 in. As you see, the multi-bid conferences, the Big Ten right now would have 11, SEC with 10. So that would be the 2 top Power 4 conferences to get double-digit, conference bids. Then followed by the ACC in the Big 12. The ACC has 8. Big 12 would have 7. The Big East and the Mountain West would have 3. And rounding out your multi-bid conferences would be the West Coast at number 2. So that is the bracketology. Now, as we always do here whenever we look at this, let's go ahead and dive into our official predictions here for February 3rd. Let's go ahead and pull up. I did filled out the bracket for the matchups, and now we just need to fill out the bracket. So if you want to do this at home, just go to pdffiller.com. If you search up on Google, like March Madness predictions, just PDF online, this will be able to pop up. They also have other websites as well if you do either want to print it out or just fill it out on online version. So what we're going to do is here we took the bracketology that we just looked at just a couple of moments ago, and we put it into this, and now we're going to make our predictions from the first round all the way to crowning our national champion. So this is going to be our first go at it. We will have, like I mentioned at the top of the show, we will have every single week going to be doing this until the official bracket has been unveiled. So let's start with the top portion, the top left portion of the bracket if you're following at home. Number 1 seed, Arizona. Number 16 seed, Merrimack. I don't think I'm going to have a 16-1 seed upset here. I think that I'm going to have Arizona pretty comfortably pulling off the win over the 16 seed Merrimack. I don't think I'm going to have 2 crazy upsets, especially like the 16 and the 15s win. We have seen it happen in the past, but for this one, probably not going to happen. Number 8 seed, Iowa, and number 9 seed, SMU. Like I mentioned, SMU, it's kind of been skidding a little bit. I am going to go with Iowa. I'm just going to trust the Big Ten teams. The Big Ten, like I mentioned, has been absolutely loaded. Every single game is a hard one. You could say that with the SEC and ACC as well. But the Big Ten has definitely been the best basketball conference so far this season. So I'm going to go with Iowa against SMU. Would be a phenomenal 8-9 game, but I will go with the Hawkeyes to move on there. We do have our first 5-12 games, St. John's and Belmont. We always have at least 1-12 over 5 upset, but for this one, I will go with St. John's in the Fighting Rick Pitino's to move on. So we will have the 5 versus the 12 there. Now let's move on to the 4 versus the 13, Vanderbilt and UNC Wilmington. And Vanderbilt definitely a sneaky team out of the SEC. But like I mentioned, UNC Wilmington is a dangerous 13 seed. And why not have it? Might as well have a little bit of fun picking this. It's not like it's going to be like your actual real bracket. But I do think that UNC Wilmington is a dangerous 13. Nothing against Vanderbilt, but I do think that there are going to be some upsets that are going to happen here in the first round. Now let's move on to our 6 versus 11 seeds. So we have our playing game, Ohio State and Texas. I'm going to go with the Longhorns winning that one, but ultimately falling to Louisville. Both of those, you could say Ohio State and Texas, they kind of been up and down as of lately. I'm going to go with Louisville to advance in a close one, whether that's Ohio State or Texas, but I will go with the Cards advancing on to the second round of this tournament. Now let's go on to the 3 versus the 14. We have Michigan State and Wright State. I don't think that the Spartans would have any problem in this one. Like I mentioned, every single year, once it comes to March, Tom Izzo gets his boys ready up, and I'm going to have Michigan State moved on to the second round in this one. Auburn and Indiana, I'm going to have a slight upset. I'm going to go with Indiana. I'm going to ride with the momentum that the Hoosiers have built the past couple of games. Auburn's a very fantastic team. Are they as good as last year's team? No. But I'm going to go with Indiana in a close game as well. And then Gonzaga and UT Martin, I'm going to go with Gonzaga, the Zags. They have been a machine. I know that a lot of people bring this up every single year. They just don't really play anybody in their conference really outside of like St. Mary's. But I will go with the Fighting Zags to move on. So let's go ahead and just fill out this region. We're going to be just filling out region by region. So let's go back now to the second round games. We have Arizona, the number 1 seed, and number 8 seed is Iowa. I will have Arizona moving on. I just don't think that Iowa would be the team to test Arizona in the second round, but I will go with Arizona to move on there. St. John's and UNC Wilmington, do I have the Cinderella story continuing on against the Johnnies? You know what? Might as well. Let's go with UNC Wilmington going on a little bit of a run there. So we will have a 13 seed going to the Sweet 16. Why not? So, I mean, like I mentioned, UNC Wilmington is one of my favorite teams, mid-major teams to watch this season, along with Miami of Ohio and St. Louis. I think that those are like the 3 teams that are really catching my eye so far. So let's have a little bit of fun. Now let's have UNC Wilmington move on to the Sweet 16 here. Louisville and Michigan State, pretty simple for me. I'm just going to go with Michigan State in this one. And then we have number 10 seed Indiana, number 2 seed Gonzaga. A nice story or one upset that Indiana had, but that run is going to end here as I will have Gonzaga moving on there. So we have our Sweet 16 matchup set between number 1 seed Arizona and 13 seed UNC Wilmington. Unfortunately, I will have the 13 seeds little Cinderella story ending here at the hands of Arizona. And then we have the number 3 seed Michigan State and number 2 seed Gonzaga. Go with a slight upset if you do want to call it. I'm going to go with the number 3 seeded Michigan State Spartans. They will move on to the Elite Eight to face off against Arizona. And it's going to be chalky in this region. I mean, I just can't really pick against Arizona. They have just been a force in Big 12 play, so I will go with Arizona Wildcats. They're the number 1 team in the region, number 1 seed, overall seed for a reason as well. So I just haven't really seen anything from them that really changes my mind that they're going to be an early exit in this tournament. So Arizona, the first number 1 seed and overall team to punch their ticket in the Final Four. Let's continue on now to the left side of the bracket. We'll go on now down to the South region, where we have the number 1 seed in this region, UConn, out of the Big East. They face off against Harvard and Bethune-Cookman. I will have Harvard winning that game, but UConn ultimately going to be too much in this game for Harvard. Now we have a great 8-9 game. NC State and Wisconsin. If we do get this game in the real tournament, I would definitely be thrilled to watch this game. I'm going to go with Wisconsin in this one. I'm trying to balance out how many like 8s and 9s that I have. But Wisconsin really showing me something over the past couple of weeks. They really been stacking up some quality wins in Big 12 play. NC State, really good team, especially with Will Wade's first season at NC State. But I'm going to go with Wisconsin to win this one. I just think that the Big Ten is going to flex their muscle once it gets to March. Then we have number 5 seed Alabama and number 12 seed Stephen F. Austin, Alabama. They've been headlining, especially with Bediako coming back from the G League. But that hasn't really worked out for them as they got blown out by the Gators and then lost to Tennessee. They got the Iron Bowl on the hardwood this week against Auburn. So this has been a team that really needs to figure it out quickly here. This is going to be an important February for them. But I think once it comes to this tournament, they have experience. I think I'm going to trust Alabama, at least in this game. But Stephen F. Austin are definitely a team to watch if they do ultimately are the representatives for the Southland Conference. But I will go with Stephen F. Austin to not win this game. I will have Alabama moving on. Now we have the number 4 seed BYU and UC Irvine. BYU was my team that I really ride. I think I had them all the way to like the Elite Eight or even the Sweet 16 last year. But I'm going to go with BYU. This is a team I definitely think has a lot of balance and can make another deep run in March. Then we have Arkansas and number 11 seed Miami. I'm going to go with Arkansas in this game. I just don't see an upset in this one. So give me the Razorbacks to move on there. Even though that they lost to Kentucky at home, not really too worried about this team. They're always going to be able to figure out in the month of March and even February too. But Nebraska, number 14, Portland State. I'm not even going to really put too much thought into this one. Nebraska has been an ultimate wagon in Big Ten. So give me Nebraska. And then we have St. Mary's and Texas A&M. This would be a defensive game between both of these two schools, but I will go with Texas A&M. Like I mentioned, Texas A&M, definitely a team to watch out of the SEC. Now we have number 2 seed Houston and number 15 seed Navy. So we do have the midshipmen projected in the field of 68, but I have their stay really cutting short as they will get knocked out by the number 2 seed in this field. That is the Houston Cougars. Now let's move on now to the second round games. In this region, we have UConn and Wisconsin. I will go with UConn. So far, all 1 seeds have survived to the Sweet 16. We will see if that changes at all. Then we have a really good matchup, Alabama and number 4 seed BYU. I'm going to go with the Crimson Tide to move on there. I think that this could be one of the more higher scoring games. This is teams, both teams that just love to shoot the three, but I will go with the Crimson Tide to move on there. Then we have Arkansas, Nebraska. Once again, I am going to go with Nebraska over Arkansas, though that would be a hell of a matchup if we do get that. Same with Texas A&M in Houston. That would definitely be a fun game to watch, but I'm just going to go with the experience that this Houston team has. They made it all the way to the national championship last season, ultimately losing to Florida. But I will go with the Houston Cougars. I mean, they are just consistency after consistency once it comes to March Madness. Then we have UConn and Alabama. We've seen this matchup before. UConn beat Alabama on the run to the national championship 2 years ago. I will have the same thing happen here, so I will have the UConn Huskies moving on there. And then Nebraska and Houston. Man, that would be another hell of a game to watch. I mean, this little portion of this bracket would be phenomenal. But like I mentioned, I just think that the experience is definitely going to matter in this field of 68. So I will go with Houston. Then we have UConn and Houston. And I will have actually 2 Big 12 teams moving on, as we will have the Houston Cougars making it back to the Final Four, a place that they are quite familiar with, especially the last couple of years. Kelvin Sampson is a hell of a coach, and they definitely have another hell of a team that is going to definitely make a deep run. So in this bracket predictions, I will have the Houston Cougars making it our second Big 12 team, making it all the way to the Final Four. All right, now let's go on to the top right portion of the bracket. We do have the number 1 seed in this. We have Michigan. They would face off against Vermont and NC Central. I will go with Vermont winning that game, but Michigan going to be just a little bit too much for whoever comes out of that game. Then we have UCF and Georgia. Once again, I'm going to go with the momentum at the moment. This could change, but I'm going to go with UCF pulling off the 8/9 in this one. Then we have Virginia and Tulsa. We always have to come to this one. I know that Virginia fans don't want to hear it, but there's been some times where Virginia has lost in these ones. But I'm going to trust the Cavaliers to get this one done over Tulsa. So give me Virginia in that one. It's kind of weird seeing a team like Tulsa come out of the American. I'm so used to seeing a team like Memphis, but Memphis have had a really poor season so far. Then we have Kansas and North Dakota State. I think that Kansas will have no problem in this 4 versus 13 matchup. Give me Kansas, a big win for them against Texas Tech. I think that this is a team that is starting to really play some good basketball down the stretch here. Then we have North Carolina against undefeated Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio, really good season for them so far. I mean, undefeated, really nothing to say more than that. This would be a hell of a game, but I'm going to go North Carolina. I know that a lot of people would just go with the Cinderella story, but I am going to go with UNC to move on here and kind of dash Miami of Ohio's hopes here to move on. Purdue versus Troy. I am going to go with Purdue, though. Purdue, in their past couple of games, as they always do, it feels not really always that they do, but Purdue definitely needs to figure it out as well. To restore my confidence in this team, because this is a team, they're a preseason top 5 team. They have a lot of talent. They just got to put it together. I mean, nothing against them. They play in the Big Ten. They've played in some really good teams, like Nebraska's, Illinois. But Purdue in this one, I will have them get the win. Then we have Kentucky and UCLA. This would be just an old historic matchup that I love to see in the first round. But I will go with the Kentucky Wildcats to move on there. Kentucky also starting to pick it up. They did have a slow start to the season. A lot of Kentucky fans want to Pope gone, but looks like that has kind of quieted so far this season. Then we have Iowa State and Austin Peay. I will go with the Cyclones moving on there. So now let's go on back up. We have number 1 seed Michigan and number 8 seed UCF. This would be like UCF would be like one of those 8 seeds where I would potentially think about it, but I just hate this matchup against Michigan. Michigan is just a really elite basketball team. So give me the Michigan Wolverines to move on to the Sweet 16. Then we have Virginia and Kansas. I will go with Kansas. This would also be a really good game in this one. A lot of perennial college basketball powerhouses in this region. We'll move on UNC and Purdue. Give me a slight upset. I will go with the Tar Heels to move on there. We will have that Duke versus North Carolina game, the first of 2 meetings this season. So curious to see who comes out with that one. North Carolina and Duke, those are 2 teams that have a lot of talent. And that's going to be whoever wins that game is going to boost them for the rest of the season. Then we have Kentucky and Iowa State. I think that Iowa State will have no problem in this matchup against Kentucky. So give me Iowa State. Then we have number 1 seed Michigan and number 4 seed Kansas. It would be a tough matchup, but I'm going to go with Michigan. I do think that they will survive and advance this one. Then we have North Carolina and Iowa State. Give me another kind of like a higher seed to make a run. I'm going to go with North Carolina. I feel like I always pick North Carolina to make a run, but I just think that this North Carolina team is going to create something special. They had a down year last year. I think that they're going to rebound and make a deep run for this year's tournament. Then we have Michigan, the number 1 seed. The number 6 seed is UNC. I will add North Carolina's run ending here. I just think that Michigan, they are going to be a wagon, whoever they play in this tournament. So give me Michigan. So far, 2 number 1 seeds and a 2 seed. I know it's kind of chalky, but that's just how I see it in this edition of this bracketology. Now let's go on to our final region here. We do have the number 1 seed representative out of the ACC, the Duke Blue Devils, facing off against Long Island. More like a long shot to win this game. I will go with Duke to win. Then we have an 8-9 matchup, Villanova and Utah State. I will go with Villanova to win this one. So I believe we have 3 8 seeds advancing on and 1 9 seed. That's why I kind of picked Wisconsin in that game. But I will have Villanova. Then we have Tennessee and Liberty. Liberty, also another dangerous 12 seed. But I just think that Tennessee, that would be a tough matchup, especially with the defense that the Volunteers have played. So give me Tennessee. Then we have Texas Tech and Utah Valley. Texas Tech, I'm not worried about them. I know that they lost back-to-back games to UCF and Kansas, but Texas Tech has got the talent to make a run as well. Then we have Clemson, USC, and San Diego State. Give me USC and give me USC to pull off the win over Clemson. There's always that play-in team to pull off an upset in the first round. I'm going to go with USC out of that one. Then we have Florida and Winthrop. Florida, slow start to the season, but they are really starting to pick it up. Big win over Alabama this past weekend. Give me the Gators, the defending champs in that one. Then we have St. Louis in New Mexico. St. Louis, one of my favorite stories this season, all college basketball. Their head coach could be leaving them, who knows? But at this moment, St. Louis, that is going to be a dangerous 7 seed at the moment so far. Then we have Illinois and East Tennessee State. Can't really pick against Illinois. They have been on fire these past couple of games. Then we go on now to Duke versus Villanova, 2 historic college basketball programs clashing here in the second round. I will have the Duke Blue Devils moving on. Tennessee and Texas Tech. At the moment, I am going to be taking Tennessee, but I'm still not really worried about this Texas Tech team. I'm going to go with the Volunteers, though, at the moment. So give me Tennessee. All right, let's see there. All right, let's continue on here. The 11 seed USC, number 3 seed Florida. I will have the defending champs continue on their run there. So we do have the 3 seeds St. Louis and Illinois, 2 of the most hottest teams in all college basketball. Man, I really want to go for St. Louis, but I just can't pick against Illinois the way that they've been playing. So give me Illinois. That would be a hell of a game. Don't get me wrong, but I will go with Illinois to win that one. Then we have number 1 seed Duke and number 5 seed Tennessee. I feel like we've seen this matchup a couple of times past couple of years, but I will go with Duke. Then we have Florida and Illinois. I'm going to trust the defending champs to get this thing done. So give me the Florida Gators. So then we have Duke versus number 3 seed Florida. And give me Florida actually to pull this one off. I think that Florida is kind of being slept on, even though they are the defending champs. They're really starting to turn the corner. That offense has been rolling the past couple of games. Give me the Gators to go back all the way to the Final Four. So, I could have just gone with all number 1 seeds, but I know it's kind of chalky. You do have 2 1 seeds with Arizona and Michigan, and Houston being the 2 seed and number 3 seed Florida. So you don't have that high seed there. That's just how I have it in this version of the bracketology. So let's go on to our Final Four matchups. The first one we have is a Big 12 showdown, Arizona in Houston. I will go with Arizona winning this matchup between the 2 number 1 seeds. And then we have Michigan and Florida. I will have Florida's title defense ending here. I will have the 2 number 1 seeds making it all the way to the national championship game. I know it's pretty chalky. That's just the 2 top number 1 seeds. But we do have Arizona and Michigan. And at this moment, I will have the Michigan Wolverines out of the Big Ten hoisting the national championship trophy. You could go either way. I could hear an argument of Arizona and Michigan, but at this moment, I will have Michigan winning the national championship to round out this 2025-2026 college basketball season. So that'll be it for this first rendition of the college basketball bracketology predictions. Like I mentioned at the top of the video, we will be back every single week until the bracket is unveiled. So we'll be doing this every single week. Let me know who you have win the national championship at this point, just based on this latest bracketology. And I appreciate everybody for tuning into today's video. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll catch you all next time. So long for now.